top running back aesthetics in recent NFL history. Start at the top. We're going to LaDainian Tomlinson. If you're under 25, maybe even under 30, it's really tough to explain just how cool LaDainian Tomlinson was, especially the first 7 or 8 years of his career. Don't get me wrong, he looked cool in a Jets uniform as well, which is almost impossible to pull off, but he did it. But we're talking, those early Chargers years. He was synonymous with the dark visor, just cool as can be. Even when the Chargers switched to their new uniforms that were always like a size too big, he still pulled it off. He's the king of cool running backs in my lifetime, no question. LaDainian Tomlinson, easily the 1-1 here. All right, we're going to switch gears here and go to Toby Gerhart, ex-Jag, ex-Vikings, but we're looking specifically during his Vikings tenure. He often went no gloves, psycho move, but it kind of worked for him. He was not a great player in the NFL, but he was the Heisman runner-up at Stanford in one of the closest votes ever. You also notice that he is going with some wristbands. He's going with some elbow padding as well. Kind of going against the colors of the jersey. You're going white jersey here. You typically would think you'd go white pads. Nope, not Toby Gerhart, just sticking with the classic black. All right, next we just have a quick one here. A little shout out to Alvin Kamara. Not really a cool look. He doesn't wear the visor. That's going to be a minus for us. But I do want to highlight the long wristband pads. Kind of a hybrid situation, similar to what Ben Wallace used to wear for the Detroit Pistons. These were not overly effective. Alvin Kamara did have one really great year, was actually a pretty decent back, but did suffer from some fumble issues throughout his career. I have to wonder if the pads were potentially part of that. All right, so next up we have Jerome Bettis. Obviously, he's going to be included here, pretty self-explanatory. Not a lot to say here. I mean, obviously you want to highlight the thick rubber elbow pads. Those were made from recycled truck tires. Just really not something you see a whole lot anymore. He's got the gloves, as you can see there, the belt kind of on its last legs, doing its job, but you got to worry about that a bit. No visor. Bettis, never a visor guy, wouldn't have really made a lot of sense. You see he's number 36. We don't love that number in general for a running back, but I mean, he's the embodiment of a 36. Jerome Bettis couldn't have worn, 23, 24. That's not going to work for him. He's a 36 through and through, and he pulled it off really well. We're going to stick in the AFC North here, and we're going to go to Rudy Johnson. Never a star. Kind of slid in post Corey Dillon era in Cincinnati. Had some decent years. As you'll see here, nothing really remarkable about the overall aesthetic, but what you have to keep in mind, and unfortunately I couldn't find a photo of this. I assume the NFL stepped in and kind of wiped it all from their archives, but he had the full name on the back of the jersey. Something that was kind of in vogue for like a year or two in the mid 2000s. Really don't see that at all anymore. Obviously there were other Johnsons on the team, so he needed to put at least one initial there, but going full name, Rudy Johnson, really unprecedented and something that obviously has still stuck with me almost 2 decades later. All right, this was kind of a three space. We knew he would be included, self-explanatory. And yes, I know, not technically a running back. He's listed as a fullback, but Mike Alstadt carried the ball a ton. He was top 100 in NFL history in total touches, multiple years with 200 plus carries. So look, as far as I'm concerned, he's at least close enough to a running back to qualify here. Just a lot to take in, right? The cowboy collar, no gloves, no visor, no fuss, no frills, just a brace on that wrist to prevent him from essentially snapping it when he's stiff arming guys into the ground. I think in a lot of ways, Mike Alstadt paved the way for Eddie Lacy, Wendell White, Brandon Jacobs, Mike Tolbert, future kind of fat running back, fullback hybrids. Okay, so now we move on to Steven Jackson. In a lot of ways, a forgotten man, a really, really good running back, one of the best backs in the league for a few years there in the late 2000s. The number one thing I want to highlight here, and you'll see this right away, I mean, he's wearing number 39. Really, really tough number to make look cool. He was number 34 in college, a significantly cooler number. I don't know exactly why he didn't stick with that or really go with any number lower than 39. Typically, 36 is probably the cap. Even that's not really a very cool number. You want to stick to 35 or lower. But he made 39 look cool. You got to hand it to him. Just a huge guy. As you can see, only going with the wrist tape. Doesn't really need anything else on those arms. And he always had the towel, like filling all over the place. Basically like a golf towel sticking out of his pants. Very, very cool aesthetic from our guy, Steven Jackson. LeGarrette Blount. Specifically, this photo of LeGarrette Blount from when he was on the Philadelphia Eagles. As you can see, he's wearing number 35. He was typically number 29 earlier in his career. As far as numbers in the 20s go, a pretty uncool number, but it felt like it kind of fit him. You can see in some other photos here, he was one of the early adopters of the medium length sleeves that kind of went down to the elbow. You'll see Matt Ryan, you'll see Matthew Stafford still wearing these today. A lot of quarterbacks ended up going that route for a while, but for the most part, they've gone out of style. LeGarrette Blount was one of the few running backs who actually went with this look. In general, though, I mean, just a bruiser, somebody you wanted on your team, a winner. He punched a guy in college. That was kind of wild at the time, but was still able to have a pretty good NFL career. Okay, so now we'll move more into the modern era. Zeke Elliott. It was controversial at the time. There are still a lot of people that probably don't like Zeke Elliott, but I got to say, I love the tuck jersey. It was very cool, showing a little skin. Probably didn't need to bring that look outside of football, bring that to the red carpet. Probably something that should have stayed on the field, but nonetheless, a very, very cool look, especially when you're supplementing that with the dark visor and you're adding the single arm sleeve. Todd Gurley, been out of the league for a few years. We're specifically going to highlight this look here, Super Bowl Todd Gurley, just a really, really strong look. Again, we love the dark visor, don't really want to be seeing any of the face. The darker, the better. Just the one single arm sleeve, very cool shade of yellow there, matches the gloves. Really strong stuff here from Todd Gurley. All right, Derrick Henry. I mean, this look speaks for itself. The double arm sleeves, never afraid to mix up the colors, kind of getting some of those Titans alternate colors into the mix. We really like that. Again, dark visor, got the chain sticking out. Shout out to Aqib Talib. Really good stuff here from Derrick Henry. Just not somebody that anybody in the NFL ever wants to tackle. And honestly, I think the look is a big part of that. We finish out with Alvin Kamara. Look, the elephant in the room here is he's wearing number 41. That's a big problem for me. I think he's one of those guys. He's had opportunities to change it. He's acknowledged this. He wore number 6 in college at Tennessee. I've not really been able to find a reason why he converted to, what's like a third string safety number. I mean, that could be your long snapper number, especially in the modern NFL now. It's like, I'd love to see him get down to a single digit, maybe something like, 17 would be kind of cool. But it looks like he's going to stick with 41. And I think you got to give him some extra credit for pulling it off in a way that very few can. You'll also notice the taped arms, fully taped, really from shoulder all the way down to the wrist. I don't know if he was the first guy to do this, but he's the one who really popularized it. And now you see it all the time with some of the younger backs in the NFL. You also notice the chain. That's big. Typically plays with a nose ring in, which we like a lot. And basically plays without knee pads, right? I mean, he's not the only guy in the league to do this. A little dangerous, a little concerning, but definitely increases the cool factor.